Biden's had 4 years to prove what he's capable of on delivering to the American people. And unfortunately, it really feels as if he's failed. His green initiatives have failed. Is certainly watching the United States, and we find ourselves in a position where I feel that there isn't much of a choice. And I think we've all seen how the Democratic Party has responded in their calls to ask Biden to step down. There is an active campaign. There are active debates. That is no longer the case. He's cognitively come to a different position. So it's a very, very different scenario.
Hello and welcome to this special broadcast on US elections. Today we are joined by Vlada Galan all the way from Kiev in Ukraine. And Vlada joins us from there. Thank you so much, Vlada. She is the elections expert, lobbyist, public relations specialist, President and Chairman of the Board of International Ukrainian Crisis Fund. Vlada, I must say that you wear too many hats, but given the scenario and the two countries that you are representing as of now, you are in Ukraine and elections are due in the United States. How do you see this whole scenario unfolding in the United States? And geographically, internationally, if I may ask you, what are the implications that you're looking at following the US elections?
Well, I think the situation that we have unfolding in the United States has truly shocked the world. And that starts first and foremost, a huge part of the world who was able to stream it or watch the presidential debate that just took place just last week. I think that the world is shocked by Biden's cognitive decline, his age, and just the declining cognitive abilities. I mean, at the end of the day, we're in a global power competition. You have Russia and China at the table and the US. And are we seriously being led in the United States by a president with a very heavy cognitive decline that was very evident in the debate? So the political situation has raised a lot of questions for what the future of the US looks like. First of all, we can take a step back and remind ourselves that nobody thought that we would be in the position that we would have another Trump-Biden rematch. Yet here we are. We do have another Trump-Biden rematch. And Biden, the last time, had the luxury during COVID-19 to hide and not be actively on the campaign trail. He could sit and hide back with his advisors and have very small events with a very limited number of people under the auspice of COVID-19. That no longer is the case. There is an active campaign. There are active debates. That is no longer the case. He's cognitively come to a different position. So it's a very, very different scenario, and the world is certainly watching the United States, and we find ourselves in a position where I feel that there isn't much of a choice. And I think we've all seen how the Democratic Party has responded in their calls to ask Biden to step down.
Well, absolutely. And that fiery debate that happened a couple of days ago was something, if that is the beginning, then trust me, how it is going to end and how it's going to culminate into is something that the whole world definitely will be watching, Vlada. Talking about the domestic issues, Vlada, how do you perceive both Joe Biden's and Donald Trump's approach towards these domestic issues like economy, healthcare, climate change for that matter? And which approach do you think resonates more with the American voters?
Well, at the end of the day, Biden's had 4 years to prove what he's capable of on delivering to the American people. And unfortunately, it really feels as if he's failed. His green initiatives have failed. We have a rampant issue at the United States border with Mexico. And you have a massive amount of border crossings. You have drugs flooding across our border. You have rampant crime spreading across the United States. You have central cities that are filled with illegal immigrants that are staying in luxury five-star hotel accommodations in some cities. What does that say to the average American that is just trying to put food on the table and take care of their family? What does it say to the Black American whose community center was taken over by migrants that needed a place to sleep? Are they less valuable in the American system, they're American citizens, and American citizens have to come first. So I think Biden's policies have clearly failed. I can't point to one overly successful policy, and the debate was riddled with false claims from Biden talking about how the average African American is better off and average Black American is better off under Biden. That's just not the case. In fact, I can tell you myself, I have a home in the United States. When I go grocery shopping, groceries cost 3 times the price of what they cost under Trump. And that is a significant issue. Americans vote by the pocketbooks. And so inflation is incredibly high. So I don't see that Biden's presidency has been overly successful. Trump often had a very firm rhetoric, but his policies worked. So however you feel about the man, however you feel about his rhetoric, the policies worked.
Okay, okay, fair enough, fair enough. From your understanding of things, obviously, Joe Biden needs to do more, failed to deliver in the 4 years that was stipulated to him. Talking about the international sphere, Vlada, you are in Ukraine as of now. Many people believe, maybe the critiques of Joe Biden and supporters of Donald Trump, that had Donald Trump been in power, he could have avoided this prolonged war between Russia and Ukraine. Do you think so? Because I distinctly remember Donald Trump going ahead and meeting Kim Jong-un on an island in Singapore. Do you think that he could have done something to make the world a safer place?
At the end of the day, we cannot lie to ourselves. We have to admit that Biden has emboldened our enemies. I'm sitting in Ukraine right now, and this war should have never happened. Biden's weakness enabled Putin. Now, because of that, hundreds of thousands of people are dead. My father has been enlisted to fight. He received a draft notice just a few weeks ago himself. He's sitting in Odessa, Ukraine, the port city. So look at what happened in Israel October 7th. This should have never happened. The problem when you have someone weak in the White House is it emboldens our enemies. Trump is the only president in the last, 25 years that hasn't had a war start under him and hasn't had a serious conflict take place under his presidency. So I think the facts speak for themselves. I think there is this slander campaign and this misinformation to say that that Trump was very close with Putin. No, I think Trump knew how to handle Putin. I think Trump knew how to play both sides of the coin. I think he knew how to sit down with Kim Jong-un. I think he knew how to sit down with Putin, and he knew how to talk at their level. And at the end of the day, there was some sort of reciprocal respect back to him because they feared him. And when it comes to politics, when it comes to the global ruling elite in the world, they have to think you're crazier than they are. And they were scared of Trump. And that made all the difference. And no one is scared of Biden. And we see it, the world running rampant. And you have to ask yourself the question, China's also watching. Is Taiwan next?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that is something, calls for a united effort in order to either ward off, or the question is, who would stop China? Maybe United States, but you're right. You need a decisive leadership there. Vlada, one more question there. Talking about Donald Trump and his policies, more often than not, they have been seen as, something which might or might not be possible to pull off, like making that wall across the Mexican border. He talked about it. He had a very strong stand against the migrant crisis that was happening, the migrants coming in. Now, the poll positioning or the SOPs that Donald Trump is mentioning or promising in his campaigns is about the immigrants and about the green card that would be handed over, about the permanent residency things for United States, for those who come from outside United States. How do you see Trump striking a balance between the two, his hardened stand against migrants and also his SOPs for the green cards?
At the end of the day, I'm a legal immigrant. I came to the United States in 1996 with my mother as a child. I fought hard to keep and stay legal. And we did as a family, moving from status to status. I'm a personal example of a legal immigrant. My family, during the last war, that was the first war that was started in Ukraine in 2014, had to wait 2 years for an interview to be able to bring my grandparents to the United States. So skipping the line is not acceptable, and Trump understands that. And that's why a lot of legal immigrants like me understand and support his policies. There is a place for immigrants in America. It's a melting pot and a country of immigrants just like me. But there is not a place for criminals. There is not a place for other countries to send their prisoners and their trash to our country. Now, there is a serious question that we have to look at when we assess immigrants. And that's the fact that there are millions of illegal immigrants that have been in the United States for years on end that are hard workers, that prop up a huge backbone of the economy. And it's hard to deny that. From house cleaners to cooks, they're embedded and ingrained in every aspect of our society. And for those people, I truly believe there has to be a pathway to citizenship. I think Trump acknowledges that and will eventually create a pathway for people that have a clean record, that have been in the United States for years. You cannot deport all those people. But as far as the criminals, as far as the thugs that are being sent here from prisons in other countries, there's no room for them. And, we've seen in the news just in the last 2 weeks, there was a 13-year-old American citizen who was 2 immigrants and killed. There was a mother, had multiple children. She was murdered on a hiking trail in the woods. In my own home state of Georgia, we had a nurse who was murdered by an illegal immigrant. The American people deserve better. So I think your question goes to, can the policies become reality? They can, and they have become reality. And Democrats were largely opposed to building the wall and put up every block that they could. Unfortunately, we have forgotten what it means to be American. We have forgotten what it means to work on both sides of the aisle, and we've forgotten what it means to put the American people first instead of politics. And I certainly hope that we can get back to that in the next 4 years.
Right. Even Barack Obama gave this slogan, America First, when the Democrats came to power. But nonetheless, one final question, Vlada, before I let you go here. As someone who operates in both Washington, D.C. and in Kiev, what misconceptions or misunderstandings about the U.S. electoral process do you often encounter internationally, and how it might impact the global perception of the outcome of the US results? Because last time when Trump came to power, there were lots of talks about some quote unquote Russian role there.
Well, at the end of the day, the Russian hoax has been proven to be exactly as it is, a hoax. Just like Charlottesville and the racist comments that they claimed Trump made, Snopes has now come out and claimed that it was false. And what we see is, I think a lot of people don't realize, and the biggest thing that I run into that's a huge issue, is that people internationally don't realize that the last election was the first election in over 200 years that we changed the way we vote. And that was a massive mistake. We had mass mail voting. We've never changed our voting system in over 200 years. We have one of the most stable democracies. We're the only country in the world where 100 years from now, I can tell you the election date. There's no other country like that. And so at the end of the day, we changed that the last election. And I think a lot of people have a misconception about things being different in the last election. When you have mass mail voting without signature verification, you open the door and the pathway to large fraud. Is it enough to change the election results? Well, I can't say. I'm not an auditor. But I can tell you that it certainly can create cause for a lot of irregularities. So I think in this election, you will certainly see that the Democrats have realized that they want Biden out. They've realized that the charade is over. They have realized now that they need to try to find another candidate. Unfortunately, they're already on the ballot in 3 states, and it's very difficult it's impossible to take him off the ballot in those 3 states. I'm not sure what kind of constitutional crisis we'd have to do that. But because of that, we're going to see, I'm sure, some sort of scandal going into October pop up. The Democrats will certainly try to pull something out of their hats. But the biggest conception is about our election system, and how the election system was different and run different the last time. And a lot of people don't seem to have knowledge on that. And I certainly hope this time we won't have that amount of mass mail voting.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you so much. Postal votes, the mail votes that you're talking about is something that has often, created quite a uproar in United States. And it is also appealed to the masses that they should come out and go to the voting stations and rather cast their vote there rather than choosing the mail option. Vlada, thank you so much. And from a country like India, which is the biggest democracy, if not the oldest, as United States is, I wish United States, you and your family, all the very best for the upcoming electoral season. And we hope to see you more on One India there.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. So that was Vlada Galan, election expert, lobbyist, public relations specialist, president and chairman of the board of International Ukrainian Crisis Fund. Thanks for watching this broadcast. This is me, Pankaj Mishra, signing off on One India.
Subscribe to One India channel and never miss an update.